Hey everyone, how is it going? So today we're having a little look at the Ruy Lopez, which I've somehow managed to not cover. Out of all of the openings, it is definitely up there as one of the openings. Even if you don't know what the Ruy Lopez is, I guarantee you would have played it even just accidentally. It is the E4, E5, horsey out to the F3, they come out with theirs to the C6, and then the bishop comes across to the B5, kind of trying to pin like so. This is the Ruy Lopez. Guarantee you've been in this position before. Now, normally what black's going to do is they're going to try and kick you out. This is the Morphe defense, and we have a choice. We can either capture or we can move back. I'm always going to recommend moving back. Some people do like to capture, and there's some good lines there. Bobby Fischer was always a fan of just capturing. My main issue with it is the light square bishop for white is always just such a strong piece, and I like to try and keep it on the board. So I recommend just moving back. They'll push forward the b5 pawn, then we can just move down to the b3. Yes, you're kind of moving the same piece over and over, which, you don't really like doing too much. But what you're doing here is you're getting it in a very solid position, and you're kind of staring down at this king side. They have weakened off the queen side, so more than likely they're going to want to castle off like so. And this f-pawn is always a bit of a weakness for black, so having it here just staring down like so, it's just always a great thing. You'll find that this bishop here is just going to come into action so much. Now, black does have these advanced pawns here, and you may see him, eventually just trying to, push them down like so. If he does start doing that, looking to try and trap you in, all you need to do is just push forward the a3, then we can just drop it back, and you've got yourself a nice little outpost there, and we're still staring down this way. Always worth bearing that in mind. He's not going to do this straight away, but later on in the game, you're definitely going to see him start pushing that pawn. But more than likely, what you're going to see is him just developing as normal, just getting out his horsey to the f6, just trying to clear off a little bit of room so he can get nice and castled off there. Well, while it looks like he's also threatening this pawn, don't worry about that. You might be tempted to be like, oh, get me horsey out, or, maybe I'll push forward the d3 pawn if I'm feeling spicy. Don't worry about that for the time being, just go ahead and castle. Because if he does go ahead and captures, we can just then bring the rook out. Bring it out to the e1, staring down like so. If he decides to jump back his horsey to the f6, we're now in a hugely dominating position. It looks like, we can just do the exchange. Like so, grab a pawn, we're a pawn up. Much better move is just pushing the d4. Getting good control of the centre. Clearly he can't take because of that discovered check. If he decides to push forward the pawn, then we just jump up the horsey to the e5. We're now threatening this really, really weak f-pawn here. And if he decides to go ahead and take it, we can take back. And then where is this horsey going to go? I mean, he can't jump down here because we're going to take. He can't jump here because we're going to take. We're essentially going to win this. If he doesn't let us take it and decides to move back to the g8, big oof. Because we then bring up the queen to the d5. We're now threatening checkmate. We're now threatening this rook. The only thing you can do is bring out the queen to try and stop the mate. We take the rook. We're now threatening to take that. And in this position, we are 11.5 up. There is no hope for black. They should just resign. If they don't, you're clearly going to win. And if you don't, I mean, I'd be so disappointed in you. I don't know what to say. Maybe have a little look at checkers or something. That's a fun game. And if he doesn't go ahead and take, more than likely, you'll just see him developing as normal, getting the bishop out, staring down at our f-pawn, always the weakest, and he'll have plans of trying to get the horsey involved, either capturing like so, and then just pairing these guys up together. And from here, I'd probably just push forward the a-pawn, hoping that he'd go ahead and capture. We can always capture back with our bishop. We now have the rook on a nice open file, and we've got the bishop kind of going for that pin again, and we can always bring it back to be staring down this way anytime that we want. And again, from here, we're in a pretty comfortable position. Like I say, he may decide to come down and, team these guys up together. I wouldn't worry too much about it from here. I mean, now we're not going to be bringing across the rook, because if you do, then whap whap, sad trombone noises. We're in for a bit of a rough ride. So from this position, this is where I'd be looking at just pushing forward the d3 like so. You may see him come down and capture, so coming across like this. If he does, then just give up your rook. You know, it works out as a fairly even trade anyway, and you can see by the analysis bar, we're still in a pretty good position. We are still more developed. We've got good movement for our other bishop. We can get the queen into play whenever we want. We'll probably be looking at getting it across their team, these guys up together. We're going to have an okay game. You know, so you might see him come across like this. We just keep developing as normal. He goes ahead and castles, and then we can get the queen out to the e2. And we'll end up kind of, you know, this is the kind of game that we're going to end up playing. You know, we can push forward the queen to the e4 like so. We have kind of like these guys working together. So if he does decide to jump this out of the way, I mean, we're just going to get a free bishop, so that works out quite nicely. Black is a pawn up, but we do actually have the slight advantage. We're a lot more developed, and yeah, you should have a pretty good time from here. Just bringing it all the way back, just thought have a little look at the main line. So they come out with their horsey, we go for the castle, and they bring out their bishop to the e7. Well, I would just get your rook across, might as well just defend that pawn. And this tends to be where they smash down with the b5. Again, we're just going to move it across to the b3. They go ahead and castle, and from here I'd be pushing the c3. And later on, we're going to have plans of just thrusting forward that pawn to the d4 just to break open the centre later on. He'll come down with d6. Now, from here, he's clearly going to be looking at pinning us. We really don't want to let him pin us, so just push forward the h3. And this is kind of the main line that you're going to see. Probably should have started with it, but I'm going to do it now. If you see him bring back his horsey, that's because he's going to be having plans of pushing forwards the pawn here. So this is where we go for that d4 move. You'll tend to see him come across to the d7. Like I say, he still has those plans for there. And just start getting your other horsey into play. We've kind of blocked in the dark square bishop for the time being, but it's not the end of the world. It's not our strongest piece. Plus, currently we are now defending this pawn because he's going to be coming across like so. These guys work together. I always like kind of teaming up the horses like so. And yeah, a fairly even game. We have a slight advantage, but yeah, we'll have an okay time. You may instead see him bring across his horsey to the a5 like so. Try and save that bishop, so we'll just slide it back to the c2. And then he'll carry on with his plan of pushing forward the c5, just to try and take up as much space as possible. We can still go for the d4, and if he does decide to do the exchange, that works out pretty okay for us. And yeah, again, it's the same kind of thing from here. We have a slight advantage, we're going to have a pretty good game. Alternatively, you may see him come straight down with the d5. This is the Marshall Gambit. Well, we don't really have too much choice in this position. We kind of have to go ahead and take. So we take, he takes back, we then take this pawn, he takes back, and then we come up with our rook capturing. Black then pushes forwards the c6, and the line from here is for you to take with the bishop, he takes back, and the key idea here is we've kind of made an extra pawn island here, and this pawn's going to be a bit of a weakness for later, so we'll be kind of targeting that pawn. If you don't want to give up your bishop just because it is such a strong piece, then you can just push forwards the d4 like so, and then just kind of carry on from there. Right, so we've looked at all the basic theory, let's look at some cool traps, because that's why we're all here, isn't it? So they bring out the bishop to the c5, very natural kind of move. So I would go with the c3. We still have plans of thrusting forward that d4 at some point, which is a key kind of thing that you're going to be doing within the Ruy Lopez. Now, a very aggressive move that you may see from them is pushing forward the f5. Now, from here, still carry on with your plans and just get that d4 into action. If he takes the pawn, we can then just move the horsey to the g5 like so. Obviously, you can't take because it's nice and safe from the bishop. We are threatening that pawn, but we're threatening the bishop. So he's going to have to move the bishop out the way, so he just moves back to the b6. From here, get the pawn and just keep pushing it forwards, like so, attacking the horsey. Now, very natural looking move is for him to bring it back to the e7, but watch the analysis bar on the side. Oh dear. Now, why has it done that? I'll give you a second to have a little look to try and work out. What we're going to do is we're going to get the horsey. So you thought it was the queen, didn't you? We're going to get the horsey and we're going to bring it across to the e6. He can't capture because of the check. We have this lovely pin going on there. Queen can't move out of the way. We've just gone and won the queen. Yeah, he'll probably push forward the pawn, the c6, you know, just to take our bishop afterwards. Who cares? We got ourselves a queen, and we've basically just won the game there. Here's another really fun one. So we're in this standard Ruy Lopez position, and they bring out their horsey to the f6. We go ahead and we castle off, and this time they play the d6, which is something that you do see fairly often. Obviously they have the plan of coming down and pinning us like so. Now, this time, don't bother pushing forwards the h3, just bring your rook out, just keeping that nice and safe. And he comes down for the pin, so predictable, black. So we push forwards the d4, and if he takes, you've just seen that hop all the way up there. All we're going to do is we're going to push forwards, and if he does go ahead and captures like so, we've got this absolutely beautiful move of bringing up the horsey and capturing. Now, looks a bit wild because, yeah, we're kind of giving up the queen. So, yeah, there we are, he's got the queen. Oh no, what are we going to do now, I hear you ask? Well, we can jump across, capture the horsey, putting him in check. Only move he can make is moving to there. We then come across, capture his queen back like so. Again, putting him in check. And we're just in a completely dominating position from here. He has a couple of choices. He can either jump back like so, which is fine because we can just capture. And we're in completely winning position, staring down at him like that. Alternatively, maybe he'll move back to there. And again, we're just going to do the exact same. Or you may see him push forwards the c6. And again, we're just going to go ahead and do the same thing. If he comes across like so, we can then just drop bishop out of the way to safety, and we're going to win the game from here. We're in such a winning position here. We're up the equivalent of 2 pieces, but according to the analysis bar, it works out as 7.8. It's just such a winning position. This pawn's going to fall, this pawn's going to fall. We can just start getting our other pieces here. Our king is nice and safe, their king is just in the middle of nowhere. We're going to win. Right, so that is the Ruy Lopez. Hopefully that was helpful for you. There's a ton of lines and variations for the Ruy Lopez. I just kind of wanted to go through some of the main theory and some of the cool chops at the end. Hopefully it was helpful for you. Sorry if my voice sounds a bit weird today. I'm currently courageously battling the worst man flu ever. So I think I'm going to go drink some tea and lie down on the sofa for a bit. If you like this kind of thing, please like it. If you really like it, please subscribe. Really helps the channel grow. It's really coming on quite nicely and I really do appreciate it. I'm not really sure what else to say, so yeah, you guys go off, have some fun, play some chess, and I'll catch you guys later.